So I've had several people ask me, Brando, why is it that you walked away from the church 21 years ago? And why have you never been able to reconcile it? Why have you never been able to go back and give it a second try? Well, it's because I just never could get behind the mindset that it takes to be a Christian. I could never embrace that type of mindset because I was a person who wanted evidence. I was a person who wanted the truth. I was a person who wanted facts, and the church couldn't give me any. I realized it was all a matter of faith. And I realized that faith would be me convincing myself to believe that I was right. But if I was ever in an argument, if I was ever cornered, I would never have any proof or evidence to back it up. And so I just could never get behind that way of thinking. Over the years, I've had Christians tell me how to live. They've told me that God told them to tell me how to live. I've been on this earth for 43 years. I have never heard God's voice. And I've definitely never thought that I should go tell another man how to live. I have never walked up to anybody and said, God told me to tell you how you should live your life, because that's not my place. I don't know how to tell him how to live his life. I can tell him what I've lived through from my personal experiences, but I can't tell him that it would necessarily work out for him that way. I just never had the confidence to come at someone and tell them, this is how you should live your life. Over the years, I've had Christians predict the end of the world to me, tell me exactly when it was going to happen. Yeah, man, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock, the Lord's coming back. You better get ready. And I'm going, why would the Lord reveal that to you? Out of everybody he could have picked, he looked down on the universe, and he picked little old you in Middlesboro, Kentucky to reveal when the whole planet was going to end. And he told you to tell me. Well, why couldn't he have just told me? I remember back in the year 2000, there was a minister that said to me, yeah, Brandon, when that ball drops in New York City, when that ball drops at Eastern time, Lord and Savior is going to step out on the cloud and take us all home. I was like, really? Like Dick Clark is going to introduce Jesus? That's how he's going to come back? It's just like, and God told you that? Every time I ever saw that preacher in the grocery store afterwards, I couldn't help but say, yeah, we're still here, ain't we? I just never had the confidence or the level of arrogance that it takes to think that God told me when the world was going to end, or God told me how to tell someone else to live their life. It's just a mindset that I could never embrace, and I just never could reconcile. And over the years, I've had Christians say things to me, and I've heard stories of things that Christians have said to friends of mine. And I say to myself, how could they have the confidence to really say that with a straight face? One friend of mine was telling me about how their dad committed suicide. And someone said to them, well, your dad's in hell. Who says that to somebody? Who would say something like that to someone who lived through such a horrific thing? And who could say that with all the confidence in the world? Nobody has been over there and knows what's on the other side and come back and had footage and had proof and had evidence that it happened. And before anybody says, well, I watched a documentary where this one guy was working on his car and it fell on him and he seen Jesus playing a piano, that ain't proof of shit. Anybody could hallucinate in their final moments. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that your third eye opened up for a minute. But I've never understood how people could say things that heartless to someone with so much confidence. One buddy of mine, an atheist, he lost his wife and his son the same year. He's sitting and talking with the banker, and the banker says, well, I'm really sorry to hear about your wife and your son. Were they saved? And my friend's like, well, no, we're atheists. Oh, well, I'm so sorry. Really? Who would say that to somebody with all the confidence in the world? Who could say something like that to somebody who just endured those kind of tragedies? I've just never been able to embrace that mindset, and it's one that I can't reconcile. And I sure as hell can't reconcile it now that the MAGA Republicans have infiltrated it. I always knew that the minister I was baptized by and that I sat under for 2 years, I always knew that we didn't see eye to eye on politics. But in recent years, I realized that I escaped a cult. I realized that I was sitting at Jonestown and didn't know it. And he is so deep in the MAGA Mike Johnson way of thinking now that it's like, there is no way in hell I could ever go back and reconcile that, ever. He is as confident as he can be that the Lord is talking to him. And I am as confident as I could be that he's insane.